Hi folks, HR Funk here, with a video that in many ways is a follow-up to the recent one that I did on the Smith & Wesson Model 39, because what I have today is the smallest evolution of the Model 39 design. It is the Model CS9 that came out in about 1999. Lots of nines in that sentence. I want to look a little bit at this pistol, tell you folks a little bit about it. It's one that I've had for a long time, and it's been a very fine firearm for me. So let's take a look at it. A moment ago I said the CS9 is the smallest iteration of the Model 39 design. I should have said the smallest factory-produced iteration of the Model 39 design. I believe there were some custom modifications to the Model 39 that were slightly smaller than the CS9, but this is the smallest version that Smith & Wesson ever produced. Again, it came about in about 1999, and Smith & Wesson for the last decade and a half or so has been in the habit of recycling some of the names from its previous successes in the firearms market. This is the first one I remember where they did that, where they recycled the name Chief Special, which of course famously was applied to the J-frame revolver that came about in 1950 and has been very popular ever since and is still with us today as the Model 36. In the late 1990s, as interest in defensive revolvers in general waned and everything was gravitating toward the semi-auto universe, Smith & Wesson decided to recycle that moniker and apply it to a new group of small-framed semi-automatic pistols that they marketed at that time. The CS9 was the first one to come out, and its original version was a blued finish with a blackened alloy slide. Shortly thereafter there was a 40 Smith & Wesson version that came out, and a little bit after that there was a very chunky little 45 Chief Special semi-automatic that came out. The one I have here is the one that I always thought was the best of the bunch. It's the 9mm CS9, and again, let's see what this revolver looks like up close, and we'll even do a little bit of shooting with it before we get done. So why would I say the CS9 is the best of the three variations of the Chief Special semi-autos? Well, to begin with, it's the lightest by several ounces. The 40 Smith & Wesson was somewhere in the neighborhood of 24, just a little over 24 ounces. The 45 ACP was a little under 24 ounces. The CS9, or the 9mm version, is a little less than 21 ounces, so it's a little over 3.5 ounces lighter than the other ones. For a firearm that's intended for easy carry, and particularly easy concealed carry, weight becomes important, and this is definitely the lightest one of the three. Also, it's the shortest in overall length. The 40 and 45 were something on the lines of 6.5 inches overall length, whereas the 9mm version is about 6 1/4. So not a great deal, but a little bit shorter. And also, as a smaller firearm, the 9mm generates the least amount of recoil. With handguns, particularly handguns with short barrel, and this has a 3-inch barrel, the 40 and 45 both had, I think, a 3 1/4 inch barrel. But with barrels that short, you're really not going to gain that much one way or the other from velocity. So your effectiveness in a defensive encounter is going to depend mostly upon shot placement. With a firearm that generates less recoil, it's a little easier to manage your shots, keep your shots on target, and deliver fast and effective follow-up shots if need be. So for all those reasons, I give the nod to the 9mm version of the Chief Special semi-autos as being the best one of the series for carrying and defensive use. Taking a closer look at the CS9, you can see the heritage, or the evolution maybe I should say, from the older Model 39 and eventually the 3900 series that immediately preceded it. There were some traits that it shared with a value series that Smith & Wesson produced during the mid-1990s. Specifically, you can see the slide is a little blockier. It also has some plastic components, specifically the sights, and the guide rod on the inside is also plastic. There was a lot of condemnation of the plastic guide rod with these pistols, and people thought that it would break and wouldn't last. I have never replaced the guide rod in this pistol. It's the same one that came day one in it, and it has been shot thousands of rounds over the years. and never given me any problem at all with that plastic guide rod. You also see that it shares the same trigger action with the parent Model 39. We have the, and I will make sure you can see that there is nothing in the firearm, nothing in the chamber, nothing in the magazine. You can see that it has the decocking safety, and it is only on one side. We do not have an ambidextrous decocking safety, but as I said before, it's the same trigger action. When you squeeze the trigger, it cocks the hammer and then releases it for the first shot. When the slide cycles and recocks the hammer, every shot after that is a single action shot, unless or until the shooter decocks the pistol again. By rotating the safety down, that actually engages 3 different safety mechanisms to keep the pistol from firing if there's a round in the chamber. Once again, when the safety is down, the trigger is disengaged, the pistol will not fire. The safety has to be in the up position in order to enable the pistol to fire. The Chief Special does not have quite the same level of fit and finish that the older Model 39 did. Again, this was intended to be a little bit more economical, a little bit more of a carry pistol, not so much of a showpiece. And the finish is perfectly functional for that. The stainless steel made it very low maintenance, and the alloy frame as well is not something that's going to rust or corrode. The CS9 came from the factory with rubber Hogue grips. This was another one of those things was a little bit controversial. Some people believe that the Hogue grips, or that the rubber grips, would somehow grip your clothing when you were carrying this firearm concealed and pull your shirt up or your jacket up or whatever and reveal the firearm or make it known that you were carrying a firearm. I carried this firearm, or this pistol, from early in the year 2000 until early in the year 2014. So 14 years I carried this pistol, and I never had a problem with it pulling my coat up or somehow revealing the pistol. So I think that concern was somewhat overstated. The CS9 has a 7-round magazine. It is a 7-round single stack. It will also accept the longer 9-round magazine of the 3906 or the 3900 series. So if you have a few of those laying around, they will fit and function just fine in the CS9. As you can see, the bottom of the magazine has a finger shelf. I think this adds a lot to your ability to grasp the firearm. Originally, when it came from the factory, you had one magazine with this type of a base. The other one had a flat base with no finger shelf. I changed both of mine to where they have the finger shelf, and I much prefer that. It just feels better, and I really don't think you give up very much in the way of concealability, which was the idea behind the flat base plate. It has a 1911 style magazine release right behind the trigger guard. Familiar to anyone that has used 1911 or other U.S. designed handguns that feature that kind of a magazine release. One of the best kept secrets about the Smith & Wesson action in their traditional metal frame pistols is the reset on the trigger. When this pistol was fired, and they're all basically the same, all the ones that share this trigger system, and the slide cycled, you only had to release the trigger a short distance, that far, in order for it to be able to fire again. If you could train yourself to do that, and back in the days when I carried one of these, I did, it was extremely easy to keep your shots on target and to shoot very, very quickly. That trigger reset is one of the things, or maybe I should say trigger reset in general, is one of the things that I hear criticized periodically on firearms that are manufactured today, and that was one thing that was very, very good on these pistols that were designed, or at least the original trigger action that was designed back around 1950. The sights on the CS9 were the standard 3-dot system. I can remember a time when sights on firearms were just black. It's been a long time ago, but by the time the CS9 came out, the 3-dot sighting system was very well established in the handgun market. And it is still with us today. It seems like every manufacturer either uses this or some other method to try to make the sights a little easier to see. One nice thing that was not available with the Chief Special pistols were night sights. that would have been a good option to have back then. But even so, at this point, 14 years later, they would probably be dead on this pistol, whereas the 3 white dots work just the same today as they did the day that I purchased it. So that's the tabletop on the CS9. Next stop is the range, and we'll do a little bit of shooting and see how it performs. So here I am at the range with the CS9. One thing I neglected to mention in my tabletop review are the serrations on the slide. This is one thing with the Chief Special series of semi-autos that was very good. These serrations are extremely aggressive. You can see how deep they are, and they allowed for a very positive grasp on the slide for when you're cycling around into the chamber. Again, it's just one of the things I forgot to mention. I wanted to point that out for now. What I'm going to do in a minute here is a little bit of shooting with the CS9. My feeling was always that this little pistol was more accurate than it really had any right to be. Some of it is due, I'm sure, to that single action pistol. My first shots that I fire are just going to be a little bit of accuracy shooting. When I get done the next time through, I want to try to show a little bit of that, how quickly and easily you can fire this when you're working that trigger reset like I was talking about before. Now, it's been a few years since I did that, so I'm a little out of practice, but we'll see how it goes when I get to that point. And we'll finish up. I'll try to think of something interesting to do at the end. So with that all being said, let's do some shooting. And there's our group, those first 5 shots out. Very nicely centered. Again, this is a very easy pistol to shoot accurately. And we're shooting from the distance of 7 yards. I might extend that a little bit before we're done, but that's where I am right now. So let me reload and we'll do a little bit of faster shooting. Okay, as promised, I'm going to be riding that trigger reset a little bit this time, shooting a little bit faster, and we're going to see how fast we can shoot and still keep good, effective shots on target. And here's the result of the faster shooting. No problem whatsoever shooting that fast and keeping all those shots nicely centered in the chest. Can't really complain about that too much at all, especially for a 3-inch barrel with a very short sight radius. Okay, remember I said I was going to extend the distance a little bit. I'm going to see if I can knock down a bowling pin at 50 yards or from 50 yards with my 3-inch CS9. This is another one of those things I haven't done for a little while, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to let the camera keep running so you can tell I'm not, shooting at it 500 times before it falls down or anything else. Maybe it'll take 500 shots, I'm not sure, but I'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Got it on the last shot. I saw it wobble on the second shot, but shot number 5 took it off there with a good solid hit. Again, this little revolver is more accurate than I think it has any right to be, and the only reason it took me 5 shots to hit it was because of me, not the pistol. So there you have it, folks. That's my video review of the Smith & Wesson CS9. Unfortunately, this pistol ceased production about the same time as all the metal frame Smith & Wesson pistols ceased production, right around 2005 or so. I realize there might have been a model or two that was made a little longer than that, and the Performance Center might still make 1 or 2 every once in a while. I don't know. I haven't checked that for a while. But you can still find these things. They're pretty plentiful on the used market. If you run across one, they are a good value. Look it over, make sure that there's no obvious damage to it or that it hasn't been mistreated or anything like that. But if you find one, they are accurate, they are reliable, and they are very fine pistols. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And other than that, Have a good day and good shooting. Bye-bye.